Converting to a new operating system for Taters Incorporated. Hello, my name is Brayan Reyes Rodriguez. I've worked for the company Taters Incorporated for about 4 years now. I have about 5 years Linux experience, and after talking it out with some of our IT personnel and hearing rumors that Microsoft is switching to a subscription-based service instead of a one-time fee sort of thing, we're going to be moving to a different operating system. In today's presentation, I will be speaking on behalf of changing to a new operating system that would also help cut costs instead of having to constantly update and upgrade Windows, as well as something that could be comfortable for our employees to use, because switching operating systems, it's not something someone is comfortable with. Why the sudden switch? Well, as stated previously, there have been rumors that Microsoft is switching to a subscription-based service. As well as we've seen, it's not really viable for us as a company to keep going along with Microsoft's Windows, as there was an issue in the past with trying to update a system from Microsoft Windows 10 to Windows 11 due to the strict requirements Microsoft has now for Windows 11. There has also been numerous issues and bugs when it comes to using Windows 11, which is expected since it's a new version of Windows. Some include the startup Windows search and UWP apps having issues opening, which has led company loss in productivity. Since it's brand new, like I said, there have been buggier moments where there have been crashes or some applications are not compatible with Windows, which has led about a 15% drop in productivity, which means we're losing money for the company, which is something we don't want to do. And another thing that we're worried about is our security, which is really important since data is valuable. Just like Windows 10, Windows 11 doesn't really have an antivirus that it comes packaged with. While it does have Windows Defender, we want something more secure since data is very valuable for our company and we don't want to risk losing something. Now, I know many of you are saying, but Windows was useful and easy to use. Well, this is true. We won't deny the benefits and pros Windows has had for our company, such as it taking about 74% of the market share for computers, it being mostly the default operating system on most computers. It was incredibly easy and friendly for new users due to how it's set up with its GUIs and its UIs, and it has constant customer support from Microsoft, constant Windows updates being rolled out, as well as like being able to call customer support, being able to email them, reach them out. Most developers develop their applications in Windows in mind, such as using exe files, and a lot of Windows applications are backwards compatible with old Windows applications. However, with all those benefits, the company itself is experiencing vulnerabilities to viruses. Like I said earlier, Windows Defender exists, but most of the time we end up using a third-party antivirus software to keep our information data safe. Because it's so common of an operating system, it's very easy to find and exploit weaknesses in the operating system. And as we've seen before from Microsoft themselves, they have dropped support for older versions of Windows, such as Windows 2000 and Windows XP. Making it seem like there will be an obsolescence of the current operating system that we're going to use. It's closed source, so we don't actually know what's going entirely on when Microsoft is making Windows. We just have to blindly trust that they have our best interest in mind. And since they're going to a subscription-based service, it's not really useful for us, as we're going to be spending money constantly on that subscription service when there should be a better alternative out there for us. Thankfully, there are other options for us. Here are some of the choices that we came up that we thought would be pretty good for our company to use. The first one being Ubuntu, the second one being Linux Mint, and the third being Arch Linux. The reason we consider Linux Mint is because it's not really resource intensive, which is really good since it'd be standardized across all our departments in Taters Incorporated. It requires very little maintenance. It's both free and open source. Very user friendly, very similar to Windows, and it's been around for about 15 years. While it would work for our company, it has been stated on the official Linux Mint website that their long-term support only lasts about 5 years, meaning we would have to renew and update constantly, and that's something we kind of want to avoid because it'd be similar to just having Microsoft Windows with updating to the newest version of Windows, whether that be 12 or another version that they have in mind. Arch Linux was also considered because it's extremely customizable, which would be great for our IT professionals. That would help standardize for different departments such as financing or the administrator roles. They have an rolling release policy, meaning it's a one-time install, very similar to Windows where you just get it and they just update it constantly. And it's free to use and open source. But unfortunately, it's not very user friendly, and we're already switching an operating system which is unfamiliar to a lot of people, which would take a lot of time and resource to train our employees to use. Um, it's even stated on their own wiki that it's mostly for people who are proficient already in Linux and have a do it yourself attitude or are willing to read documents and solve their own problems. We're really looking for something that is just quick, install it. Users are able to maybe figure it out within 1 to 2 days or maybe even a week at most, and we can just continue productivity because like I said, we've already experienced 15% loss in productivity. We really don't want to lose any more productivity. And only about a handful of companies actually even use Arch Linux anyways. It's just something not really viable for everyone in the company. Good news is though, we did decide on Ubuntu, which is incredibly user friendly. It's free to use and it's open source. There are about 11,003 companies that use it already. Some big companies known as Snapchat, Reddit, Instacart, and even MasterCard, to name a few. The UI is incredibly similar, and I will show you in a demonstration a little bit of how easy it is to navigate through Ubuntu. It's even got its own server software that we could use as well if we're going to be transitioning completely all the way over to Ubuntu. I've created a mock-up of what the Ubuntu environment will look like on our machines for our companies, some of the specifications that are like the minimum requirement to run this operating system on our machines would be about 2 gigahertz dual processor or better, 4 gigabytes of system memory, 25 gigabytes of hard drive space. Internet access is also helpful, which we have. It's standardized across our whole business at Taters Incorporated, and either a DVD drive or USB port for installation. In this demonstration, I will be showing off some applications I picked out, and my hope is to show you all a visual representation of why this operating system would be the best for Taters Incorporated. So let me switch over to the virtual machine to demonstrate. Alrighty, I'm inside the virtual machine now showing Ubuntu for Taters Incorporated. As you can see, here's the Taters Incorporated logo with a background that will come standard for all our machines at Taters Incorporated. The UI is incredibly similar to Windows, having the toolbar here on the left instead of having it towards the bottom. We have numerous little applications here on the side that I want to demonstrate to you all. There's an icon down here that will show you all the applications currently installed. Some of them will remove so users don't accidentally do something on the computer, just to guarantee better performance. We have an application here called Files, very similar to File Explorer on Windows 10 and 11 in all other versions of Windows. It comes with desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, etc. and so forth. Very straightforward, very similar to File Explorer. We have a web browser, Firefox. It came pre-installed with the operating system, and we're going to have it set as that just because Firefox is a little bit safer than Google Chrome. It can do basic things as is going on Google, going on YouTube, going on Imgur, stuff like that. Let's close out of here. this also came pre-installed, and it's an application called Thunderbird. Thunderbird kind of acts like a cross-platform hub where we can have everything centralized into one instead of having one application over here, another application over here, just have everything all condensed in one spot. For example, currently I'm sent into my personal email. I have everything from my Gmail right now, from my inbox to my trash, from my sent mail to my spam. We will be having everyone log into Thunderbird using their company-wide email, and we're going to try to avoid having people log into their personal mail just for convenience sake. The application also comes with calendar. We're able to set dates just like a regular calendar. It also comes with an address book. You are even able to import your address book entries with this little option right down here. It comes with a for connecting instant messaging accounts, which gonna try to use for our ticketing system in our IT department, which would make everything much easier, much condensed for the end user. Right down here we have LibreOffice, which is very similar to Microsoft's own Microsoft Office. It comes with a writer document, a calc spreadsheet, an impress presentation, draw drawings, and math formulas. Very similar to Microsoft's. Let's do a little example. Let's go into a writer document. Again, very similar to the Microsoft Word, even up to the UI. And let's test how an end user might save a document. So let's just do a hello test. We'll go up here to File. We'll click Save As. And right down here, it standardized, it comes with .odt. However, as we can see when we scroll down, there's the Microsoft Word file type, which will be incredibly easy. If you have to get this like a file off your computer and you want to work it on your own computer, you're able to convert that on Google Drive real easily. Let's close this, don't save. Let's look at calc spreadsheet. Again, incredibly similar, which will be incredibly useful for our users since they won't really feel frustrated. They'll feel more at home. There's also, let me close out of this one. PowerPoint, like I said, incredibly simple, incredibly similar. See? Alright. We also have Flameshot, which is a snapshotting sort of application, which is going to be used more primarily for showing IT certain bugs, or if you need to send over a picture of something real quick. Right up here, it'll give you the option to take a screenshot. Right there. Just cancel that out. And you will be able to, we're still trying to bug fix everything and make sure it's all perfectly done by the time we implement this. You will be able to draw on the screenshot without having to open a separate application, write within the screenshot, save the screenshot as a certain file type, a PNG, a .jpeg. And last but not least, we also have Zoom. Zoom, as we've used it before in the company due to COVID-19, it's just a video conferencing application that we'll have our monthly meetings on, or even our users can host meetings in case they need to get together with their other co-workers if they're working on a project. Oh, I forgot to mention we also have remote desktoping, which is incredibly useful for our users who need to access something from their work computer but work is closed. Also for our IT department who needs to get into the computer to try and see what issues are going on in case there was a ticket submitted. We also have VLC Media Player. Windows comes with Windows Media Player by default, so it'll open videos on its own accord. Unfortunately for Ubuntu, it didn't come pre-programmed. However, we were able to implement it onto here, and you're able to play videos and audio as well. Alright, after our live demo of using the virtual machine to show you what a standard Taters Incorporated Ubuntu environment would look like, I just want to take some time to look at some of the applications we talked about, such as a Thunderbird, which is a pre-installed open source cross-platform email application that allows our employees to import their address and contact books, import some important dates or events, and as well as having their company email all in one place without having to open one app here, one app there, and just feel overwhelmed with how many applications they have open. It's a quick and condensed, easy solution for that. Another application that came pre-installed was Firefox, which is an internet browser that allows our users to browse the internet. Very similar to Google Chrome. However, we're not going to be using Google Chrome just because of how many vulnerabilities it has compared to Firefox. Firefox also has a low memory usage. It blocks crypto mining scripts, blocks third-party tracking cookies by default, and compared to Chrome, Firefox has open source software for its extensions. Another application that came pre-installed that we demonstrated, which is very similar to Microsoft's own proprietary brand, was LibreOffice. LibreOffice is an open source productivity app that allows our users to create documents, presentations, and spreadsheets. As we saw in the demonstration, we were able to change the file type for the text file for our documents to have them be the .docx file, which is in Microsoft's own file type for its documents, meaning it could be universally opened by anybody, and it's not just stuck to the Linux version of it. The other three applications that were shown in the demonstration were Zoom. Zoom was a post-installed application which we put on the computers due to it being an incredibly useful video conferencing application that we've been using here at the company since the start of the pandemic for COVID-19. It allows users to create their own meetings in case they need to work together on a project or contact one another, or when our company has company-wide meetings. Another post-installed application would be Flameshot. A Flameshot allows the user to take a screenshot and edit right there the screenshot by either adding text, by adding arrows, or drawing directly on the screenshot, which could also help us in our IT department by showing us images of what exactly is going on and drawing or highlighting where the problem might be occurring. Another useful application for our IT department and our users is a pre-installed application known as Romania, which allows the users to remote access their work desktops in case they're working from home or they need to access a file for a project or a meeting they've got coming up, as well as our IT department who could use it to remote access into the computer and try and fix the problem without having to come out of the department and going all the way to, like, let's say the finance department, when the issue could be fixed then and there right from the computer. Now, throughout this presentation, you've heard me talk a lot about open source. This application over here is open source, that this one over here is open source, and how good open source is, but what exactly is the big deal with open source? Well, typically, open source means that there's more than one way to solve a problem. There are multiple solutions. Open source keeps our organization from getting blocked or stuck in case an application we're using or depending on breaks or just no longer works. For example, Microsoft has a closed source on its operating system and its proprietary apps. So, if we continue to use Microsoft in Windows 11 and one of those break, we're essentially at the mercy of Microsoft for them to send out an update or an upgrade for that app or OS, which would make our company lose a lot of time and a lot of money. Compare that to open source, where if there's an issue with an open source application, many of them have wikis, many of them have community forums from their trusted developers that show us different ways of solving solutions that our IT department could handle, and would get us back up and running quickly without an issue in the world. There are some possible downsides to Ubuntu. It's not a perfect operating system, such as some of our applications not exactly going perfectly, transitioning from a Windows environment all the way to a Linux environment. There is an application known as Wine. Wine stands for Wine is not an emulator. It creates a compatibility layer for Windows applications on Linux, but it's not 100% and it's not completely perfect. Even though it's very user friendly, some of our users have only ever used a Windows product and are only accustomed to using a Windows product. We're going to need to spend time and resources trying to train our employees to get accustomed to this operating system, since for some of them this may be the first time ever that they've used something outside of a Windows product for their computer. Some drivers don't exactly work perfectly on Ubuntu or don't exist at all, and they need workarounds, such as some Wi-Fi drivers not really working. And unlike Microsoft's own proprietary Windows brand, there is not really a customer service type of support that we could use in case something really bad goes or happens to our operating system. Microsoft has on-call support. They also have it over email. Ubuntu has where you can email, but doesn't really have the immediate customer support calling that Microsoft has. In conclusion, I believe Ubuntu is a beneficial operating system for our company to use instead of Windows. It is incredibly friendly in its UI, it has constant and stable updates for its OS, and we're very easily able to, in case there is something wrong with the new version, immediately roll it back without having any loss of data or any loss of productivity. It's incredibly simple to Windows 10 and 11, as we saw from the presentation. Just the names of the applications are just a little bit different, but that should hopefully go well with the training that we do for our employees. It is very cost effective for our company, which is why I think it's a really good choice. It is free compared to Windows, where we have to sign licenses, and especially now with how it's turning into a subscription base, we don't exactly have the kind of money to be throwing at a subscription based operating service. And it is open source, meaning that we'll be able to solve any issues on our own, or going through the community, or going to the developers directly. Here is some of my work cited, some of the research that had been done to try and figure out which operating system was the best and how we decided on Ubuntu. Thank you so much for coming to my presentation, and I hope that Taters Incorporated will take my presentation in mind when changing operating systems.